everyone, today we got to play Woodcraft. Now this is a recent US release, but it was released out in Essen. So we're super excited to get this to the table, but before we talk about it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing. And that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Now, Randy, can you tell us a little bit more about Woodcraft?
I can. So this, as you mentioned, is a 2022 release. It has a Board Game Geek rating of 7.9 and a Board Game Geek rank currently of 1647. It's a 1 to 4 player game, 60 to 120 minutes in length, age 12 and up, which is probably a little low, it seems. This one's, 12 is probably okay, but they have to understand a lot of mechanics because this is
it's high on iconography.
It's a lot of iconography and it's a lot of moving parts
and a lot of detail rules.
Yeah. Designed by Ross Arnold and Vladimir Suchy. Art by Mikhail Peichel, and I'm sure I mispronounced that. Published by Delicious Games and Rio Grande Games. It has an MSRP of $69.95. Card House has it the cheapest I saw for $48.79, and it's in stock, whereas Miniature Market has it for $48.99, and it's not in stock. So it looks like Card House would be the place to go get it, unless, I mean, there may be other online retailers that are cheaper, but that's the one I checked that I saw was cheapest.
All right, so let's talk about the quality of components. So you do have some wooden bits, and that you have a lot of cardboard chits as well. Your cards, it is not linen finish.
And they're very flimsy.
They are very flimsy. The boards are linen finish. The boards are nice.
Yeah, the cardboard's nice.
And then you have this board here. I think this is nice. I think this worked really well. It's not sticky or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked out. I almost wish, however, that these were kind of inlaid so they would... I mean, I guess you have to pick them up, but...
Yeah, I think this was one case I don't want an inlay just because it's a problem to get them out and move them because you're going to be constantly doing that.
Well, I mean, it's just they do fly everywhere. So, but I mean, overall, I'm not too impressed with the quality of components.
No, there's nothing outstanding.
It's okay.
I mean, it definitely gave me the feel of Messina 1347 whenever I got this out. I'm like, it just feels that way when you get it out.
I see. A totally different theme. I don't get the same feeling.
It's the same designer. It's the same, the same action boards and all of that. It's got lots of bits, just like Messina.
I mean, the complexity of the game, you could definitely tell it's the same designer because of the minute details needed. However, I didn't get that feeling while playing it because I felt
it definitely plays differently.
Yeah, it plays very differently, and the theme is very different.
This is much more flexible of a game than Messina.
So overall quality of components, I'm thinking a 6.
Yeah,
there's nothing great. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it deserves a 6. I maybe a 6 because of the linen finish on the boards.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because all the cardboard bits are tiny.
Well, the fact is there's a lot of it, right? So
the currency in this game, the blueberries are just awful. They're basic, very basic. So yeah, we of course didn't play with them. We used our poker chips for money.
Then let's talk about the actual theme. So the theme is that you are a woodcrafter. And
Magical woodcrafter.
So you can get a log and plant a log and have it grow
into a tree. Yeah, you can have lumber that you plant and it grows into trees.
I like to believe it's more of like a sapling that you got maybe for your 1s and 2s. Anyway, so then you have a blue saw blade, different things that you're trying to do to modify the wood to create different items. Now your items are essentially your contracts. You get 4 in your starting hand that you could in every not round,
at the beginning of the game, and then every income phase.
Yeah,
there's 4.
You place a new one out, so you have 4 different income phases where you'll place beginning and the 3 income,
and then the final one you get income, but you don't play a card.
You have different things that you end up making. You have woodworkers or elves because they can magically do things. And that works out for them. I mean, overall thematics, I think it's pretty good. I think there's a lot of things, you solve the things in half or more. in your building stuff. I mean, thematically, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think it's, I mean, all of it's wood related. I don't know that some of the mechanics make sense with, like, for example, why would you build pyramids of tools in your attic? I don't understand that. I liked it. It was fun to do.
It's not. It's more of your tool board. I mean, have you seen? So I think about my brother's garage, and he's got this beautiful.
Oh, it specifically says it's your attic you're putting them in.
Well, I think it's more of your garage.
I just don't understand.
Because I just imagine my brother, because my brother, he does a lot of like woodworking, carpentry kind of projects, and he's got his wall of glory with all of his tools. So I figure that's your wall of glory.
I don't know if I want to go up there with all those tools hanging in the attic. That would make me nervous.
I mean, I don't know. You do you.
I've seen enough horror movies to know that I don't want to do that.
So I mean, but I get it. I don't know why. There's some things that. Whatever. It's still cute. It's fine.
It is cute. I mean, it's fun that everything ties to wood, and I like the fact that the contracts during the halfway point you move to the advanced contracts, and the items typically get more advanced on the cards. So you see more modern, more advanced technology in the woodworking and more design work as opposed to basic wooden objects.
Yeah, there's no way you can fulfill those suckers. So, I mean, yeah. So theme-wise, the art's okay. Nothing like outstanding. Well, let me rephrase. I think the best art is actually the crafting on the contract cards. Not the helpers and not a lot of the other stuff, but I do think the actual things that you're making, they did a lot of detail on. Other than that, the art's it's okay. Nothing outstanding. So for theme, I'll give it a 6.5. What are you thinking for theme?
Yeah, I mean, if it had a little more, it made a little more sense to me in how the mechanics integrated. It feels like it's a layered on theme to the mechanics. There is a little bit of stuff that integrates and makes sense, but a lot of it just is kind of happenstance as far as here's a kind of a cool mechanic, but we're still going to force this woodworking theme on it, and it doesn't fit nicely, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not horrific, because sometimes you play games and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's not counter to the mechanics.
Correct, but it's 6 there. So, all right, now let's talk about the actual rule book. Now, this had a lot of details in it, and I know because you and Alan read it the first time.
Yeah, it's a 20-page rule book, and it's got a nice cover on it. Matches the cover of the box.
But we had to go back and reread a lot of stuff just because there's so many rules that were. I mean, like the basic game's not that difficult, but like the little minute details can trip you up.
This wasn't as nearly as bad as Encyclopedia when we got that one. The rule book there had so many minute rules that just seemed arbitrarily put in there. This one. Everything, the iconography lended itself to.
No, there was still some iconography
The one thing that was left out that didn't make a lot of sense, it was in the rule book, but there's no iconography to indicate it, is the places where you purge the cards off of the like, there's like round 4 and round 10, or 12, I think it is, you're supposed to purge the cards. There's nothing on the scoreboard as you move through those rounds to say, okay, at this stop, purge the cards. Why? I think it would have been very simple to have put that on the score or the time tracker on the board in those rounds to say purge the board. They put on there to switch to the new cards, which wipes the cards, but they didn't put it at the Mark 4 and the Mark 12. Why? I have no idea, but it's in the book to say wipe the last, the 2 X's off whenever you hit those points.
I don't know.
That it's just that was a big miss in my eyes in the rule book.
Well, let's be honest.
The rule book or the iconography.
I'll be honest. The cheat sheet wasn't that helpful.
Yeah, well, that's typical Suchy too. I mean, look at what we saw with Messina 1347. You had a completely cryptic score.
You didn't know what to do with it. Yeah. You don't know what to do with this, and and it's like I really wish like this stuff was on a card because I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just so annoying. What does it say? Yeah, everyone is so annoyed.
They put a little cheat sheet on your board that's really kind of useless. They put icons on the central board in 3 different places. It's just kind of a hodgepodge everywhere. It's not simple to see. And then there's a icon cheat sheet on the back, which all it does is basically tell you it tells you basically in very simple words what it does, but it's not real clear. I mean, I guess it's clear. I shouldn't say clear. What it says is clear on here, but it doesn't really go into much detail.
Right. Well, and it's not so much, a lot of it you don't need the detail. It's when you end up with these combination of iconography, sometimes the interpretation of them could be varied. Because there were a couple that we thought one thing, but it was another, specifically with the people cards. And we had to go look those up pretty often because...
But they did give you a nice cheat sheet for this people card.
Yeah, but some of them didn't always apply because they weren't the exact same icon. They had different colors or minor things that... Okay, yeah, you could extrapolate, but you didn't really know for 100% sure that that's what that meant. And like I said, we encountered things that sometimes we thought was one way, but then it was another. And I guess they did allow it. But the iconography can get a little confusing. And I'm a big iconography fan, so... but I like it a little clearer. So.
Yeah.
Overall, giving it rules, what are you thinking score-wise?
I'm probably a 7. I think it's not bad. It was clearer to me than Encyclopedia by far as reading through it. It would have been nice to have a few reminders here and there that would have made it a little more clear and to have better iconography cheat sheets by far.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. So when we talk about rules, the only thing I care about is a cheat sheet because I want to be able to play the game as quickly as possible. Yeah, no, not for this one. That's not what the goal is for the cheat sheet is. I don't know what the cheat sheet's meant for, but it don't help me.
But I will say I can interpret this easier than I could Messina. It's not great, but I can, knowing the rules, I can look at this and say, oh, this is what they're saying here. This is what they're saying there.
I mean, yeah, but
yeah, it's not great, but it's not as bad as Messina was. And, so a little bit of improvement to this game. Maybe.
I don't know if I agree with you, but it's just not helpful. So let's move on to the actual gameplay. So the gameplay consists of, like I mentioned, you will have had 4 contracts and you place 1 at the beginning of the game. So I'm just going to take this top one here because I can. So the one thing I'm kind of look at over here is this over here in this corner.
Those 2 as well. You have 2 kinds of contracts.
Yeah, but so I'm going to pick out one. I'm going to choose this one. This one basically doesn't have anything up in this corner, so I'm going to place it at the nothing location. Now, for example, this one, though, has a blueberry. So if I were to choose this one, I would end up putting it in the blueberry location on this side of the board. Now, why is that pretty relevant? Well, it tells you how long you have until you can complete the thing, because eventually you're going to end up, every
income phase,
it moves down the track, and you can end up with negative victory points, but also negative reputation, which can get pretty nasty because it lowers the value of every single contract you fulfill if you have, not as good at reputation as others. All right, so I'm going to pick one. So I'm going to do this here. All right, so that's going to be the starting. Now, it's where I'm going to have 3 rounds for this before another income phase.
Well, 3 or 4, depends on the round.
3 or 4, yeah.
But yeah, you will start the game with 3 of these wooden dice that represent the different types of wood, yellow, green, and brown. And you'll start with one pip on brown, 2 pips on yellow, and 3 pips on green to start the game. That represents the lumber that you have to build with. And then as you go through the game, you're going to have opportunities to take actions that will give you more wood or let you change the wood.
So what are the actions? So the actions are located on this board. Now, so it is the beginning of the game. So I've decided, you get a free worker also at the beginning of the game that you'll draft.
You have to pay for it. But you
do have to pay for it, but you have the opportunity to buy it, and you get to choose out of so many. All right. So I would have had this. Okay, so I'm going to decide that, you know what, I actually would like another person. So I'm going to take that action. So it's the plus people action. Now I'm going to take it out of this lineup. All right, so I decided to get another person to help me along because I really maybe want this right here, -2 for people. So that's actually a pretty good card to have at the very beginning. Maybe I want to go with people strategy. All right, so I'm going to pick that. I'm going to take it to the next section. So you'll notice there's 4 sections on the board. I'm going to take it to the next one, the farthest that way. Okay. And then I'm going to spin my blueberries and I'm going to pick this card. Okay, and when I place it, okay, I have to place it adjacent. Now, the inner part of me goes from left to right, top to bottom. You don't have to. As much as it hurts my heart, you don't.
Just has to be adjacent.
So it just has to be adjacent, okay? Now, this is relevant because there are bonuses at the bottom, but they're based on gear action, so it would be kind of pointless to go there unless you had enough, because it's like 4 gear actions. If you don't have 4 cards, you're not getting the full extent of the bonus.
Well, yes and no. At the end of the game, if you haven't,
right? If you triggering it, something's better than nothing. But typically, if more bang for your buck if you actually have all 4 gears. All right, so I'm going to place that out there. I'm going to pay my tokens.
You also will
and then I'm going to replace.
You'll be covering an icon, which will increase either your income for money, which are blueberries, or your victory points, which are hazelnuts.
Yeah. So in this case, I'm going to go up on the money track. Okay. So that is my action. Now, Randy's going to take his turn, so he's going to pick another one.
Yeah, I would choose a different action. I have the choices of one that lets me buy resources, which are like glue, scrap wood, or saw blades.
So that's the one you're going to do. So you're going to push that over there.
I'm do that one. I very rarely would, but okay. So that lets me buy up to 2 different ones. And they have an exchange rate here on the board of how many blueberries it costs. So the first, I can buy saw blades 2 for 2 blueberries, and I can buy a glue one blueberry for 2 glue. So I could buy that total for 3. I would get 2 saw blades and 2 glue. I'm more likely to buy the scrap wood. It seems to be more useful, particularly since I never bought the glue apparatus I needed to use it. So there are some contracts that require glue, though. So it depends on what your contract needs are. So, but I would typically buy get the saw blades and the wood.
There you go.
Thank you. And I got to pay my blueberries, which I didn't get out for this demonstration, but I would normally have paid blueberries for that.
Yep. All right, and you're going to put them in your storage pile, which is over here on this side of the board. All right, then the next action. So I've done that. I need to upgrade because I need to plant maybe my yellow for another one that I've got in this one. So, for example, this contract has a level 5 yellow. Now, I know it's coming up, and I would like to pick it next round and have it practically fulfilled by the time the next income phase going around. So I know that if I plant my yellow now, it will possibly be high enough. So I'm going to go and do that. So I'm going to pick the upgrade action. I'm going to move it over there. Now, as you can see, as we're pilfering through, on the next route, the further the actions go, there's different icons for that. So, like the least favored get the bigger bonuses. So just kind of keep that aware. The upgrade occurs. So again, this is just purchasing. I'm deciding that I'm going to try to plant. So I'm going to pay the cost down here, which in this case is 4 blueberries. This one also, when you first develop the thing, you also get a 1 level. Okay. You'll also get a income of victory points and the 1 die by building it there. So the other thing is that you can also upgrade your saw blade. So you always have 1 saw blade, but so say if I need a 2 green and a 1 green, I could use my saw blade. Now this is a free action, okay? So this has nothing to do with the actual board itself. I can end up dividing this in 2. I need a 2 and a 1. Just give me another one. I'm going to make this a 2.
And there's a 1.
There's a 1. Okay, so I'm going to put it up here. Now, if I were to take the plant action, I can only plant 1s or 2s, but I have the choice to split. So for example, I have this 2 here, but I want to plant a 1. So I'm going to make this a 1, and I'm going to get another die and have another 1 available to me. Now, planting is an action in and of itself. So you get a plant and a gear action, okay? Or if you end up choosing this and you don't have anything to plant, you can actually do 2 gear actions, okay? Now,
the gear actions are on top of the workers. So in addition to the worker's ability, which sometimes is an ongoing effect, sometimes it's a one-time use, immediate use, and sometimes it's a once per round use. So you trigger, but on top of every card, there's a gear action that you can trigger.
Yeah, some are better than others. So, All right. Now, this action gives you contracts. Here's your contracts. You can choose one, and then your second one costs you 3 if you choose to do it, and you can get 2 contracts that way.
Before we do any more from there, just because you don't have to take all of them out of this section, you can choose ones that have moved on. So, like, I could choose the one to get the workers, and what happens is this dial here advances to another position, and I get to place this here, but it encourages the benefits for these last ones that are still left over back here, because you get an additional bonus on top of whatever might be at the top. Once this first time it's evacuated from this first section for the first time, we'll remove this, and it's going to add perks to that beginning section too, but there's perks already on the other ones. So it encourages you to take ones that have not been chosen.
Right. And then again, I could almost take the person thing again if I wanted to go all the way up here. Now, at this point, no one can choose the people because it can't go any further until this empties out. All right. So the other 2 actions left after the contract is the selling a die. So you can sell a die for the quantity of pips. So for an example, it's been a couple of rounds, and I ended up, let's see, I'm going to end up selling this 5 green that I've grown. So I would sell it, or I would take it, I would harvest it, right? And I would sell it. So I get to sell it plus 2 berries. So the number of pips, 5, plus 2 is 7.
No, you sell it twice.
Twice. Yes, it is twice. So it's 10. But then I would also look over here and say, okay, green, there's no additional benefit. But if I had a yellow, it would be a plus 1 berry, or if it's a brown, it would be plus 2 berries. So just kind of keep that in mind when you go to sell it. And then you can also choose to buy a dice from the supply.
Specifically a 6 you can never buy,
right,
and it has to be a different color than the die that you sold.
Correct. Okay. All right. So that's one action. And then the other action is buying 2 wood. Now I'm going to buy the 2 wood from here. So I could choose to buy 2 dice from here. Now, again, the cost is pips plus this modifier here. And then I spin the blueberries and I get them and I put them in here. Now, what happens is you pick, so as you go to replace them, so say if I bought these 2 this round, Randy would get another brown and green. He would roll them
off the table, most likely, yep. And we would reestablish them on here.
Yes. So that will always be full. So you do have a couple of options for the dice that you needed. Then that is basically all the actions. So you continue until you go through the income phase, in which case any contracts that you didn't completed, they will move down. You'll get the income from your 2 different income tracks, which is money and victory points. You'll gain those, and then you'll proceed on with the game.
And it is free actions also to complete contracts. You can complete as many contracts as long as you have the resources to do it. And the dice that are printed on them is specific. You cannot use, that's why cutting the dice is very important, because you need to get values that match exactly what the card's looking for.
Most of the time when you deal with games that are similar to this, it's always, you have to have a 3 or higher. No, you have to have a 3. And that lead it to be very complicated. And let me tell you something. I hated trying to get 1s. 1s were so annoying in this game. Because, like, you need, give me 3 1s. I'm like, where am I going to get 3 1s?
Well, that's where the saw blades come in handy.
I know. And it turns out, so there's a couple of things that you can do. So some of your upgrades, and automatically the saw blades. So when you go use your saw, for example, I have this 6. Turns out I need 3 1s out of this. So I could choose to do a 3 and then another 1, 1, and 1. So a total of 6 pips, right? So I'm dividing that up. But to do that, that's 4 dice. So I get 1 for free, but I would need 2 other of these saws to make that happen. Now, the thing is Miranda did not know that the first game we played. And the second game, it was quite helpful.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, it's not nearly as hard as it was the first time, because every time I saw like 4 1s, I was like, no, I need dice the least. Like, I don't care if there's 6s. I just need as few as dice as possible to have to fill those contracts. So but yeah, so this game is, it's about dice manipulation, really. I mean, yeah, you've got some engines kind of sort of with your people, but it's really about trying to manipulate the dice in such a way to fulfill your contracts.
Well, I think it's that, and it's the action selection, trying to choose to get as much bang for your buck by taking actions. There's a huge strategy in this of looking for, I would call bargains, where you can get an action that nobody's been taking and get additional bonuses with it to make it more valuable for you, because you need every perk you can get in this game.
Yes, for reals. But, everyone's aware of that, and so no one allows it to go up, really, because it's like, oh, well, that little bit extra is going to help. Which is fine. I mean, it works out. Now, and then, we forgot one kind of important thing, lanterns. All right, so you start out with 2 lanterns of the game, and there's 2 things that you can do with lanterns. So if you have 1 lantern, okay, so say if, there is 1 left behind, like quite significantly, okay? We've got a few here, we've got a few here. All right, and there's this one all the way back here. Now, I do not need this action by any stretch of the imagination, although buying wood you always do need. But say if I didn't need it, no matter what, it's at the end of the game, I have the dice I need.
You're short on money.
Or I'm short on money, and I really just want to, or I need more glue or whatever. Okay, so I can choose to pay a lantern, take this, get all the benefits. So I'd get this benefit here, I would get all these benefits, and I could change it to whatever action I want, okay? So then I would move it on the next go around and continue on. Now, the other piece of it as well is, so that's one thing. Then if I had 3 lanterns, I get to take an extra action without picking up a tile. So I just pick an action and I do the thing with 3 lanterns. So it's not quite a free turn.
Yeah, you don't get the associated bonuses of the place location of that tile. You just get the action of that tile.
Yeah, but it's still very useful. That's an extra action that you did not have, and actions are very scarce in this game because if you consider it, there are 14
rounds, so you 14 actions.
Yeah, so you're trying to encourage as many actions within the actions that you have. So that can be very, very useful. But then I've also found changing the dice changing the tile was also very useful because especially it's like, okay, I don't need any of this and the one thing I want is all the way up front. So manipulating it that way. So I think you really liked this game a lot. You were pretty happy about this one.
As far as the sushi games, it's hard to remember exactly where I've scored all the other ones. But I think I like this one a lot better than Messina. I liked Messina, but I like this a lot better because it feels more open. Messina, you got like rigid, this round, these are the things that are going to happen, and you got to react to them, and you're limited to where you are on the board. This one, you don't have that restriction. You can choose whichever action you want, as long as it's not blocked by the dial. You can choose any action that's already been chosen. You may not get as good of a perk with it, and then you can build your board the way you want to build it. And there's lots of strategies for scoring in this game. I focused primarily on trying to get contracts completed because there's a lot of points to be scored. Pyramid. But that also, one of the things we didn't discuss is some of the contracts have tools on them. And the tools go in the attic, as we mentioned earlier, and you get perks by building pyramids of tools in your attic where the tools are not the same. If you build 2 adjacent tools, you won't get the perk that's between the 2. But you want to try to get the various tools that differ from one another in your attic. And
they just have to be different beside each other.
Yes.
Okay, so you can, if you have on opposite end. Oh, there's one other free action we forgot. Buying victory points.
Yes, each round you have the option to level up and buy a victory point or one or more victory points. The cost goes up, the victory points go up as you go across the board. And at the end of the game, there are bonus tiles that you can get by fulfilling. You've got 2 hazelnut contracts at the beginning of the game, so you can potentially claim 2 of the cards that are bonus victory points. One of which, if you get it in the game because it's a random shuffle, is one that gives you points for how far you level that up. And so far, both games we've played of this, it's been up there, and I managed to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to score in this game, and that's what I like. It's a point salad game, and I like the flexibility of it. I don't think I like it quite as much yet as Last Will and Prodigal Club, but I think it's definitely up there with Underwater Cities for me. So it's kind of a competition there. I'm gonna, as far as a score on this, somewhere between 8.5 and 9, I think, is where I'm at.
Ooh, you like
Well, I gave Messina an 8.5. And it's like slightly better than that, but I don't know if it's quite a 9 for me. I'm like maybe 8.75. I hate to go into the fractions, but it's somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9, and I'm not quite sure it's up to a 9 for me. The only reason I'm hesitant on giving it a 9 is so far the same strategy, the one that I played, has won both games handily. So I'm a little concerned that the pyramid of tools in the torture room up in the attic, along with the contract fulfillment, might be more powerful. But then again, it's also had the advantage of having that being one of the bonus cards that I've gotten a hold of. And if that card isn't out, that may change things.
Well, but that's being super reliant. So I do not like this as much as you. I think Messina is better. Part of that, though, is the thematicness. I liked Messina because it very much felt like there's a plague going on, and you're trying to save the people from the plague. Don't kill the people. Don't let them. You got to go heal them. This one did not capture my imagination as far as theme goes. And I don't want to like double hit it, for theme, but you're talking about overall enjoyment level. It was lacking in that element for me. And so I did not enjoy this as much as Messina. Definitely much less than Prodigal Son, and Last Will. That combination game was freaking amazing. So for me, I'm actually going to go a little bit lower. I do think this is a solid game. I think it's got a lot to it. I will definitely be willing to play this again. So when it comes out, I won't be moaning about it. I'll be like, oh, sure, let's do it. But there are a lot of other games. There's a lot of steep competition this year.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a strong, solid year for games. That's for sure.
I know we do a top 10 of everything we review, and we were talking about it the other day, and all three of us, me, Randy, and Robert, were all like, I don't want to choose. It's going to be miserable to choose. But I don't think this one will be up there for me. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. You'll see. But for me, score-wise, I'm going to give it an 8. I think it was a good, solid game. The theme let it down a little bit. So.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I had an absolute blast, and hopefully you guys will too. We'll catch you guys later.
Bye.